Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. Droid Live Show, episode 107 today. It is Friday, April 22nd. I'm your host, Kellen. With me, Tim. Tim, say hi.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Tim here.
So on today's show, we're going to talk, well, first about Google Play Podcast, since this is a podcast, and talk about that real quick to make sure you guys are subscribed there if you want to. And then we're going to talk HTC 10 review. That was published today. Tim has some thoughts on the G5 and its modularity. Also the S7, since he's now been on it for over a month or so, which is kind of crazy. It seems like it's been longer than that, but it's only been about a month. I also have, you can't really see it, but right there is an HTC Vive. Here's the controller. So I want to share just some thoughts on HTC Vive. No, it has really nothing to do with mobile, but HTC does, whatever. Google I/O schedule is out. We've got some other drama, whatever. We got lots to talk about. So let's dive into this first. So at the end of last week, I think it was NPR. So NPR sent out this memo to all of their partner radio stations and said, basically, Google Play Podcasts are launching on the 18th. And don't tell anyone is what they said. So, of course, that got into the hands of journalists and was posted then. So we sort of expected it, but on Monday, Google did announce that podcasts now live in Google Play Music. And we are on there. I mean, when they announced that these were coming months and months ago, we signed up from day one. And so our stuff's been ready to go for whenever they decided to launch it. They've launched it. So if you want to subscribe to us on Google Play Music now, like say you're a Google Play Music subscriber, you want everything in one place, we are now on there. So on the web, it's already live. You can already subscribe to Droid Life, listen to us there, or any podcast for that matter. In the app, though, the rollout seems to be a bit slower. So I got the recent update that changed the icon of Google Play Music, but I still don't have access to podcasts in the app. Do you have access yet to podcasts?
I got the update this morning, and I do believe I have access to podcasts through the actual app. I was actually going to check.
Let me check again.
Yeah, while we were
see,
doing
I still
this.
don't. It's kind of sad. Actually, I wonder if I switch it.
There it is. Oh my God, podcast, the Droid Live Show. Oh, can't really see that. There it is.
Yeah, no, I do not. So here's my no podcasts in that whole side there.
Womp womp.
But I did get the update. I just don't have podcast support, which kind of sucks.
I
Not that I listen to a lot of podcasts, but
I'll subscribe to us.
yeah, and shit. Actually, I want that'd be great because I want to see what the notifications look like.
Yeah.
So, anyways, podcasts now available through Google Play, and you can get notifications if you subscribe and all that stuff. So, anyways, we're on there. Feel free to listen through there. Also, though, like the day after, 2 days after that Google announced it, they said that they've already included podcasts within the Google app. So if you just go on your phone to the Google app and search for like the Droid Life Show or whatever podcast you listen to, it should show up in there, and you can listen right there. You don't even have to go through Google Play Music, which is cool. All right, so HTC 10. Got HTC 10 here. Have had it for, I don't know, a week and a half, almost 2 weeks, something like that. So full review published today. And I don't have a lot of bad things to say about this phone. Really nice phone. Like HTC did a really, really great job with this. We talked about this quite a bit last week. I'm not about to say welcome back HTC because I think I saw like 3 more people write that this week. Welcome back HTC. You did a great job. They did a great job, but until they sell, 40 million of these things, I don't think we should be welcoming them back yet. With that said, they did good design. I guess I realized after reviewing this that I'm just not a fan of all metal phones. With that said, this is a nice looking phone. It's well put together. If you're a fan of all metal phones, I think you'll really like the design here. There's something about, I think the weight and just the way they feel in hand, I don't love. That doesn't mean this isn't a really nice phone. I just prefer the S7 in hand, but overall, it's just, you still haven't held the damn G5. The G5 just kind of feels plasticky and cheap, even though it's supposed to be metal. This feels like a hunk of metal, but it feels like, even with the giant chamfer, like they did a nice job. Like it feels polished and finished. So design's awesome. Software, actually pretty great. It's basically like a thinned out version of Android or of Sense on top of Android. There's not a lot of sense getting in your way. Like it's there, but it's not everywhere is sort of what I said in the review, which is kind of what we want. Like we want a skin that adds on to the experience, doesn't overwhelm the Android experience. I kind of made a mention that HTC might be sort of, if you want that sort of experience that Motorola used to give us, where it was like pure Android with just some add-ons, HTC is kind of the company that may be doing that now that Motorola hasn't completely turned into a disaster, but we're getting there. So HTC, software updates that they've been faster than anyone late. They're now doing lighter version of their skin. Seems like they're working closer with Google. They're ditching all their own apps and using Google's apps and things like that. Let's see though. So camera on this phone it's fine. It's not the best camera. It's a good camera. It's obviously HTC's best camera. It's not as fast or as good, I would say, as either the G5 or the S7, but it's a good camera. Like if this is your phone or you're hesitating because you think the camera might suck, it doesn't. The camera's good enough. Like you'll take good pictures with it. I think you'll be satisfied with it. It's not the best camera, but whatever. That doesn't mean it's bad. So what else? The display's okay, good, not great. Definitely not as bad as the G5's display. I kind of dinged it for no water resistance, the price, and availability. And we talked about this a little bit last week, but water resistance in a phone is such a big deal now. It just is one of those things I feel like everyone should have. Like I've been using this and I went to the G5 for a while, which also doesn't have it. And during the times with these two phones, it's like, it was something I worried about. I was like, oh, I can't be anywhere near water because these phones can't handle it. With the S7, it's just another one of those things you don't have to worry about, which is a big deal. Pricing $700 for this phone is just too much money. It should have been $600, maybe even $500.
$550.
Yeah, $550 would be fine too, but $700 is ridiculous. That's more than the Galaxy S7, and the Galaxy S7 has more technology packed in there and is overall just a better phone. I just don't know what HTC is thinking there. In terms of availability, the whole non-AT&T thing is just not good. But they're also, Verizon seems to have worked out some deal where they get it first. So it's like AT&T passed on it, and then Verizon was like, well, we want an exclusive where we get it first. And so T-Mobile and Sprint customers, like, they have to wait. And we don't know how long they have to wait, like if it's days or weeks or what the deal is. So I don't know. HTC is not doing a good job in terms of availability and distribution, but.
And we're still quite some time from an actual release. Regardless, for all those people who pre-ordered, like we pre-ordered a phone, I think, through HTC, and I have no idea when we're going to get it, but
no idea.
It's coming someday. It's kind of like Kickstarter. Yeah. You
pre-order a little bit like we're funding HTC at this point.
Yeah, you kind of have to hope that you get a phone at some point. So
yeah, and that's the thing. Like we posted a review today. It's the 22nd, and the phone may not be out for like 3 weeks for all we know. And so it's almost like it doesn't even, we shouldn't even have posted this now because everyone's going to forget. And then when it comes later towards the date that actually is around, I mean, we'll just tell you guys about our review again, but it's just such a weird deal. It was kind of the same with the G5. Like LG pushed his phone out, and then it was even longer. I think it was like a month and a half before theirs showed up. So I don't know. Yeah, if everyone seems to be pretty excited about the HTC 10, but you can't get one. On the 29th, Verizon's going to have them in store, so you can pre-order and get your hands on them if you want to. But that's like the soonest people that aren't, elitist journalists like us that can get their hands on them.
Elitist. Yeah. I see, like you mentioned, people seem excited for the phone, which seems odd to me. Like they definitely should be excited because it seems like a decent phone, but they say, oh man, the speakers are cool, or the camera's really good. Like, how would you know any of this? I mean, all like you as a consumer have not been able to touch the phone. All you can get are the samples that elitist media people like us get to post because we are privileged enough to have the phone. So, I mean, hold your judgment until maybe you can go into a store and pick one up for yourself. And for now, maybe the majority of that are coming from HTC fanboys and fangirls who are just head over heels for HTC.
They belong to HTC Elevate. My favorite people on earth, by the way, HTC Elevate members.
But
I think some of the people are their opinions are formed because they trust, voices like ours, and
Sure.
rightfully so. We
Sure.
try not to be completely dipshits when it comes to this stuff, but I like it. I honestly, I think you could buy this phone and be happy with it. I think just about anyone, especially those people that want something that's not Samsung or LG, especially their overwhelming software. Like you just want kind of a slimmed up version. You like the premium build and you want something different. Like this is a phone you could definitely, I think, get behind. And I think that's kind of what people are looking for. And HTC, it's funny, whenever their phones come out, it's like I'll just keep referring to them as the HTC Elevate kids. They just come out of the woodwork and they get like really vocal and really crazy. So HTC Elevate kids, you have a good phone in front of you. You should be excited. We'll say that.
Yeah. Then what was I going to say? I forget. That's what I was going to say. I want the phone. I'm actually excited to get my hands on it at some point.
Yeah, whenever this unit we ordered comes in.
Yeah, exactly. So probably another phone will be out by then.
It's the dark version too.
Yeah, that charcoal.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it because TouchWiz is cool, but it's getting a little overbearing sometimes. So.
I honestly think you would like the HTC 10. I think you'll be slightly, because you've been on an S7 for so long and you're used to that camera. Yeah. I think the 10's camera will frustrate you a little bit because it, like I said, I posted a bunch of pictures of it. It takes pretty good pictures. They're a little dull in terms of the color, but it's the speed, I think, that bugs me. Like we're at this point where it's all about fast cameras, right? Got to launch fast, focus fast, snap fast. So you don't have to wait and you capture every moment. The S7 does that so good. And the HTC 10 is just not that. Like you launch it by doing this double swipe down. And, oh, there it goes. Like that takes way too long.
Yeah, they need to cut that in half.
Yeah. So that's part of the problem is it's slow to launch and then it's sometimes kind of slow to focus and stuff. And the focus is a little bit finicky, but otherwise I think you'll like it. I think you'll appreciate how there's just no garbage on it.
Totally.
Like the first time especially the unlock, look, we don't know what Verizon's going to do to this thing. I mean, we know they're branding it with Verizon, but we don't know like the bloatware they're going to force on this thing. I mean, if Verizon can make Samsung put bloatware, I'm surprised this thing isn't running like Verizon OS on Verizon. You know what I mean? Like HTC has no power anymore. So, but I think you'll open the phone for the first time and open the app drawer and you'll be like, there's nothing in here. It was weird when I fired this thing up and there was 10 apps. I don't remember the last time I saw a phone that only had that many apps. So
dang.
Yeah, really good phone. Not if you want to know my personal opinion on what the best phone is, it's still the S7. I'm already back using the S7 now that the review's done. And that's not because I don't like the 10. I just like the S7 a little bit better. That's all.
Dang.
Yeah. Which carrier will not have the bloatware? I think they'll all have bloatware because even T-Mobile puts on like their device.
Their T-Mobile crap.
Yeah, and they have the fewest, I think, of everyone, but they still have some. So if you want no bloatware, you have to get the unlocked version, which costs $700. Because that code's not still working, right? I haven't checked.
I think it is actually.
Oh, is it? You can still get $100 off.
Mentioning that the $100 code still works.
Okay.
So $600, and HTC is also offering like these device trade-in deals where they're giving like $200 for a older Nexus 6 or something like that. I mean, that's not bad. So if you can get the phone down to like $300,
totally worth it. Yeah,
so it's worth it.
If you can get the unlocked version, which again only works on AT&T and T-Mobile, I get this feeling it'll eventually work on Verizon or HTC is maybe trying to fight to get it. But either way, if you buy T-Mobile, if you're a T-Mobile or AT&T guy and you can get it down by trading in phones and things like that to like $400, $100 worth it. Don't think you will be sad by that. And the unlocked version is going to get updates fast because there's no carriers involved. That's actually a pretty damn good deal.
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, anyway, HTC 10 reviews out. If you guys want to read it, pretty much mostly good things to say. I just think it's expensive and it sucks that no one can buy it and there's exclusives and it's not water resistant. It's really the only things I didn't like about it.
It's sort of a downer, like I just feel like that phone should come with higher water resistance.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
I don't think any of their phones ever have though. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah.
And like Samsung said they had to not invent new parts, but they said they had to custom design all of the internal parts to make them water resistant in the S7. HTC doesn't have the funding to do that. Sorry, those don't. Okay, this also bugs the hell out of me. And HTC's, so the G5 is kind of like this too. I'll show you. So I'll start with the G5. So look at the headphone jack.
Okay.
Can you see that like the hole cuts into the side? Like it's not centered in the top. Like that bugs the shit out of me. So HTC used to do this with the bottoms of their phones and the headphone jack, but now they're doing it with the USB Type-C port. So like it's kind of hard to see, but it's like, see this bottom edge down here? It's like right on the edge. And then up above it, there's like a thicker area. Like, why didn't you center the damn thing?
Internals, man.
I actually think it's slightly crooked too. It totally is. Look at that. It's slightly crooked. It's like slightly thicker on this side right here. That's bad. Oh no, you probably can't tell.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Those little things like that sort of bug me. I remember last year Samsung with the S6 caught a whole bunch of flack for the bottom not being all lined up, but they actually did line everything up this year, as far as I can tell. So
yeah, this one looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's just those little things, right? Deal breaker right there. Deal breaker. One thing I'm going to miss, though, about this phone and the G5 is the Type-C. Type-C is awesome. Not having to, like, now that I'm back in the S7, if I need to plug it in and flip cords around and crap. Although I do have a fast wireless charger sitting right here. So anyways, all right. Let's see. You had some things to say about the G5 today. I don't even know where this came from, by the way. You were just like, the G5, stupid modules. Like, you can't even buy any. And I was like, no, there's like one. And you're like, I'm writing with something. And I said, okay. So you want to talk about what your deal is with the G5 today?
Yeah, I mean, I was having a conversation last night with my girlfriend, actually. And like, we were driving to the store and I was like, I'm going to write a piece tomorrow that says the G5 is stupid or something like that. And then I sort of slept on it and I was like, okay, it's not stupid. It's just, it was like poorly implemented, the whole module idea. So LG G5, first like widely available modular design device. We all know that. The problem is that from what we know now is that there is only one module that you can actually pre-order for the phone, even though the device is actively available for anyone to go buy it. You can only pre-order a single module. When it was announced, there was going to be two modules, a cam module and a B&O module, which allowed for better audio through the smartphone. So the camera module, it sucks. It actually doesn't do anything besides provide a dedicated shutter button and a tight and wide sort of like the spin wheel dinghy.
The zoom.
Yeah, the zoom.
The zoom, yeah.
And it does offer a little bit bigger of it allows the phone to have like a larger battery or longer battery life, although you're not going to use the camera module to extend the life of your battery. It adds too much bulk to your phone. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So my problem is that LG released a modular phone with no modules. And they only recently made an HDK, the hardware development kit, and an SDK, software development kit, to developers very recently. It was only a few weeks ago. And so at this point, it's too late for the G5. You know, there's not going to be like a big slew of modules made available next week or next month that allows G5 owners to actually take advantage of this modular slot. The only thing really that the module slot does is allow you to change out the battery. And even doing that, you know, as you mentioned in your review, it's sort of janky, right? These little hinges that are keeping it in place, you don't think that they might last over the test of time.
Have I showed it? Anyway, keep going and I'll show you this.
Yeah. So my point is that LG really screwed up in trying to push out this modular thing when there are no modules. And I wanted to like reiterate time and time again in the post that I'm not hating on the G5. I think the idea of a module phone is cool. Just the way they went about it and not having any options for consumers to purchase really kind of shot themselves in the foot. And you know, I'm kind of hoping, I didn't write this in the post, but forward looking, you know, maybe next year, the year after, whatever, when third parties and LG have had a chance to work together on making modules, you know, maybe the experience will be a lot better, hopefully. But at this point in time, the LG G5 is nothing more than a proof of concept. That was it.
Yeah, and it really is. And yeah, I talked about it a little bit in the review, but it's this thing where they introduced it probably to see what people thought, number one, and if people cared about add-ons and accessories and stuff. But that was sort of the thing from day one. It was like, okay, so you create this modular phone, bravo. It has a camera grip, which no one needs. And then you have an audio DAC, right? So you have a DAC that for audiophiles, really, really limited segment of the population that's going to want something like that. And then we've come to find out that, yeah, they're not even going to release that in the US because apparently no one in the US cares. And it's a European thing, basically, right? So you create two modules. One's not coming here. And the other one, no one needs a camera grip. Like it's it totally is just this proof of concept. And what they're going to do now is work with hardware partners, and no one's going to, okay, I shouldn't say no one. There could be one or two things pop up, between now and next year, but most people are going to be looking at the G6. So the G6 will probably be a modular phone, and it'll probably be cool. And there might be some cool modules. But yeah, the G5, if you buy that today, you should buy it today because you think it's a good phone. You shouldn't buy it because you think it's future proof and there's going to be all these modules, because you're going to be wasting your money then, because we don't know if any of them are ever going to come. They just had their developer conference last week to introduce developers to their hardware kit that you just talked about. So these people that could potentially build this stuff, they just got the information on it. They have to go then design things, test them more, get LG's approval, then hopefully decide if it's even cost efficient to make one and sell them. And then they have to distribute. I mean, like, we're talking, it could be 8 months, maybe, if we're lucky, before we see modules arrive. I have no idea, right? But like, we're talking a substantial amount of time. So yeah, it is completely just a proof of concept to show that we did it first. And now we're going to try to create this ecosystem. And I hope that they succeed. And I hope that the G6 has lots of cool modules, because I think there's potential there. But yeah, the G5 is not. If you're buying it because you're like, oh, for like 2 years, I'm going to have all these sweet modules, that's probably not going to happen. So, yeah.
And as you mentioned, they're trying to build this ecosystem. But from what we've seen in the past, LG sucks at making ecosystems. If you're trying to make an ecosystem, you've got to go kind of Samsung's way, where you just pour millions into it, kind of like the Gear VR, right? They made the Gear VR, wasn't the biggest thing ever, but then they started seeding it out to developers, and they're giving it out like hotcakes whenever there's some type of event. So, and even different companies will hold events like Facebook, and they're like, you know what? Perfect time to give everyone a Gear VR. So you're kind of you're paying for it, but you are getting the ecosystem sort of, the foundation of it created. Mm-hmm. So, and let me just say, the LG developer conference that they held or whatever, it was in a very small venue, maybe 50, 100 people tops. It wasn't some huge 2,000 people showed up to develop fun stuff in the G5. No, this was a small meeting in comparison to the Samsung developer conference. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so we really don't know what's going to happen with this thing. I think we're all hoping that it turns into something cool, but I don't know that we'll know for a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, battery time.
Oh, yeah.
Look at this thing, right? So this is crazy. So let's see if I can get the noise. Oh, you hear that?
Why do you have to force it so hard?
So if you can see, it has these. They're basically hooks, right? They hook each side. And so you have to you stick the one hook in to get it attached, and then you snap that back on. But so it's hooked both sides. So you have to do it one way.
Oh,
and
shit.
It's it's so bad. It just makes me cringe every time I do it. At least they're handing out free batteries, so when you break the first one, you have a backup.
Yeah, that doesn't seem very innovative. No. It could have been done a better way. Mm-hmm. But hey, man, I'm not the hardware designer, so
yeah, they'll tighten that up, I think, next year.
Yeah, possibly.
So while we were talking about this in Type-C, a bunch of people in the chat were talking about USB Type-C, and so there's this mini controversy, if you want to call it that, about
HTC and LG.
Yeah, well, and how it not being up to Type-C spec. Yeah, so Benson, is it Leung? the Googler that's doing all the reviews on Type-C stuff.
Mhm.
So he came out with a little G Plus post and basically just shat all over LG and HTC because the Type-C isn't up to spec. And the idea here is that so Google didn't go with Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0 or 2.0. They went with the Type-C spec because they think it's safest and they think it's best. And so Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3.0, it goes above the voltage basically of the Type-C spec. And so because Benson says boo boo, everyone's like, oh yeah, you suck then, Qualcomm, and everyone else. So look, I'm not an electrician. I'm not an engineer. This stuff I'm not really that into this stuff. But you can't tell me that Qualcomm created a quick charge technology that's going to fry everyone's phone and is mass selling it to everyone and basically created their own spec. So look, I get like there's the USB Type-C spec that Google's following, and that's really cool. But just because Qualcomm has their own doesn't mean it's all of a sudden bad, right? I mean, obviously there's maybe somebody can do some testing and a whole bunch of phones will be fried because Quick Charge 3.0 is pushing too much current. But come on, do we really think Qualcomm would do that? Like, you don't think they tested this? There's not like safeguards built in? I don't know. Maybe I'm just blind and I just assume too much, but it just seems stupid, right? This is like a dumb controversy, right?
It's made up controversy. Yeah, well, I think Benson has actually been the best like USB Type-C sort of not like investigator, but he's been going on Amazon pointing out all the good USB Type-C, bad USB Type-C. And so for a part of it, a small portion, it's good, right? You don't want to accidentally purchase something that might damage your phone. Of course, like Amazon third-party cables, probably not the best idea. But this is almost like another step where you're sort of calling out these other companies in general. And I think it's like going too far. Yeah.
So I think the mini controversy, again, if you want to call it that, is he basically said, I wouldn't recommend the HTC 10 or the G5 because they're not up to USB Type-C spec. They're basically to Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3.0. And that's because everything he does is based on the like standard USB Type-C. So of course he's not going to say like, yeah, this is awesome, because he's not following that. He wants to push, a standard.
Google's agenda.
And Qualcomm's isn't that standard. So of course he's not going to say. But and again, I think the scary thought for people is that it's going to fry a bunch of phones. I don't think it's going to do that. I mean, I guess you could potentially buy a scary charger then. And because like he's out there fighting for like the USB Type-C, like official spec, right? And the chargers and all that. I don't know that anyone's doing that for the Quick Charge 3.0 versions. So I guess there's potential you could buy a crappy charger and it could fry your phone because no one's out there looking out for you. But that's kind of always been the case. Before Benson was doing this, that was always sort of the case, right? Buy from reputable people and hopefully you'll be fine. I guess is kind of all I would have to say about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't really seem like it's a controversy. Like the phones are fine.
Yeah. Or don't use one company's charger on a different phone, or, use like a rapid charger on a non-rapid charging phone, etc. I mean, you just have to rather be safe than sorry.
Right.
So I don't just use common sense. I see it as like a common sense thing, not really a mini controversy or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just, again, look at it as Qualcomm has Quick Charge 3.0. And they've probably done enough testing that they feel safe telling these manufacturers who sell millions and millions and millions of phones that it's going to be fine.
Totally.
And that the technology is not going to ruin anyone's phone when they charge. Is sort of how I look at that.
Yeah, and we're actually giving Qualcomm the benefit of the doubt, because don't forget, Qualcomm is the company that releases processors that burn people's faces, burn holes in their pockets with Snapdragon processors. So we're actually being pretty nice to Qualcomm right now.
This is true. We are being pretty nice to them right now. So yeah, that's kind of all my thoughts there. Anybody else have anything else to say? No, not really. All right. Let's see. So this week we did this sort of news style post, which we may do more often. It's hard to do because we switch phones so often. But so you wrote up this post about having the Galaxy S7 Edge for a whole month, and like I would do it for the S7, but I've been switching phones like crazy, so I can't. I feel like I've been on a new phone every 2 weeks.
Right.
But so you did this thing like sort of you were like reflecting on the month since you've reviewed it, how it's been, that sort of thing. And again, we'll try to do this as we can, but we're a 2-man team. We change phones all the time. It's not that easy to do. But anyway, so you've had the S7 Edge. Why don't you just kind of go through like what your thoughts were, I guess today, even after having this phone for a month?
Right. Yeah. So I've had it now for, it must be like a little over 40 days because I actually have the T-Mobile variant and I actually just device unlocked it. So now I can put in my AT&T SIM and get LTE wherever I go.
The days to the unlock.
Exactly. So basically what I took away from it is that the overall experience is still just as good as it was day one. The performance is still good. The battery has actually gotten better than it previously was. The T-Mobile and every other Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge on carriers received a large update. And inside that update, there were a few battery tweaks. And I've noticed that I have gotten a much better battery.
That's
almost
crazy.
Yeah, almost double from what I saw. So at the end of the day, I was getting like 10, 15% when I was plugging in my charger at night. But now I'm going to bed with like 30, 35% battery, and I'm still doing all the same stuff. Like now I'm on Wi-Fi a bit more often, and I am also playing a few more games because I wasn't able to play Alto's Adventure, but now I am because of the game save data stuff. But yeah, going beyond that, so the battery has gotten better. Performance-wise, TouchWiz still very good. And,
yeah, remember last year, the T-Mobile variants, they got that first update and the performance just went...
Yeah, absolutely. It tanked. But this year, that hasn't happened. It's actually still pretty smooth. And another point that I touched on is the IP68 water resistance. Someone called me a water-resistant hype beast or something like that. Dude, I mean, I'm sorry that I like IP68 water resistance. I can take my phone into the bath and watch baseball, or I can take it underwater and shoot pictures, and your phone can't. I'm sorry that you're a hater. So that's just the way the world is. And, you know, I was sort of talking about price. I actually, inside that post, I started talking about the HTC 10 and the price and how it compares to the S7 and S7 Edge. And basically, for HTC to charge $700 for the 10 and not have like higher water resistance and dust resistance, I just thought it was kind of BS. I just threw that point out there. But the camera, still good. Display, good. Build quality, awesome. The only negatives that I have for the phone is the fact that this phone probably won't see Android N until like way down the road, like late 2016, maybe even early 2017. It's quite possible. I mean, because so let's say Marshmallow was released in October. S6, Note 5, phones like that are just now getting Marshmallow. So really, this phone, yeah, it may not get N until January, February. I said, I put a prediction. I said November, December. Android N is scheduled to be released by Google in Q3. We don't know if that's early Q3, late Q3. But the point is, this phone probably won't see a large Android update for quite some time. And for me, that's a big deal because I love Android. I need to have the newest Android. So software updates, don't expect too much. The only other downside I have for the phone after a month with it is the speaker, the single bottom-facing speaker in the worst possible spot ever. Whenever I have the phone in landscape, my palm is covering it, so I have to hold the phone at a weird angle. Look at how I have to hold the phone. This is how I have to hold it because I'm cupping it with my palm, holding it with my index and pinky finger, and it's actually quite strenuous to do this. Luckily, I have masterful dexterity thanks to years of guitar playing. And it's not that bad, but I mean, God forbid, like if I had shaky hands or like not much like strength in my fingers, I'd be hating my life. But when all is said and done, after a month, like I would still have this phone. I haven't had much time with the G5. I haven't even touched the HTC 10, so I would still stick with this phone. Actually, next to 6P, I would, if I had the opportunity, I would switch between the two, depending on how I felt that day. 6P is still great, but in terms of 2016 phones, in my mind, nothing touches the S7 or S7 Edge. So that's that.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited now to just go back to it for a while because we don't really. We're in kind of this break where we don't have necessarily phones to review, so I can
Yeah.
actually start figuring out what phone I want to stick with for a while until Motorola does something or Google does something. Actually, we have a Huawei P9 coming with its dual cam. We'll talk more about that later, but we have one of those coming. We may play with that for a little bit, but now I gotta like settle into a phone to decide what I like. Although as these Android end previews keep coming out, I'll probably just end up on a damn Nexus again, which is fine. Love me some Nexus. Actually, my international S7 is getting an update right now. I have no idea what it is. Nice. I didn't get prompted. I actually just randomly checked while we were talking because you talked about that update you just got that made everything better. This thing's 200 megs. It's downloading really slow too on Wi-Fi. Anyway. All right. So, HTC Vive. So we have a Vive in-house. Again, it's right there. There's the mask right there. And you can see the laser thingy up here on one of my tripods.
The infrared.
Yeah. And then I have another one right over there. So
it's cool that you actually used a tripod and didn't drill them into the wall like a nerd.
Yeah. So they put they did put the actual like a tripod screw on the bottom, so you can just hook them onto a tripod.
Cool.
Because I mean, there's a chance I could, because my office, like the space to play in here is not huge, right? And I do have a bonus room upstairs that could be kind of fun to set it up in there and have just almost like unlimited space to run around without all the dangers of like my desk. So there's a chance. Yeah. So I didn't want to like mount all this stuff in case like you're going to test this someday at your house or I move it somewhere else or whatever happens. Right. So
good thing.
You can't just throw them up on tripods, which is kind of nice. Anyways, like it's very cool. And I know we've talked a little bit about it here and there, and we've each taken time to do some demos at CES and whatnot. At HTC, every time you go somewhere, HTC's there doing Vive demos. But it's been nice just in the last, I got it yesterday, set it up. I've only played a little bit with it, but it's nice to have it in my own environment where I can just kind of mess with it and play with it. It's a pretty polished product. I'm actually surprised. The only problem is there's just not a lot of games and content yet. That'll obviously come. I think, did GDC just happen or something like that? And I think everyone was talking about VR stuff. So we'll probably get titles from real game developers soon. But so far, I mean, it's just, like you could just open up any of the things that are available and just kind of walk around and go, this is cool. Like Google's tilt brush, like painting in space. Like you can do this environment where you're actually in space and there's nothing underneath you. So it's like you're floating in space and there's a planet right in front of you. And so I drew like a light line around the planet, and you can draw around the planet. So then it's like Saturn basically just sitting there. Like I created Saturn and I could walk around it. Like that's pretty cool. There's this one where like there was a snowman in front of me and I decorated the snowman and like drew on a snowman and saved it, walked around him and stuff. Anyway, but it's just like those ideas that you could be in a space creating is just really, really cool. So I look, I've been a VR hater forever. Yes. I get it. Like I get why it's cool. It's just really expensive. Like this is a job for me to do this. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to like buy this stuff, but as a consumer thing, like it's a pretty heavy investment. So anyway, we'll have more thoughts on that. Probably we'll try to figure out how to not like bombard you guys with it, but whatever. It's fun. We'll have a party at my house and everyone can come use Vive instead of dealing with HTC reps or something.
Nice. There you go. Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning how HTC is everywhere. Yeah, I mean, you walk into the grocery store, HTC is there testing out Vive. You go test drive a car at your local Nissan dealer, HTC is there giving demos of Vive. So,
I mean, I went to the HTC 10. So when HTC announced the 10, they did this sort of kickoff party for media, and they were there showing off the phones, but it was in this space in New York City, and half of the space was for the phones, and the other half was for Vive. This was supposed to be an HTC 10 launch event, and they were like, "Journalists, are you done with the 10? Come do Vive." Like, yeah, that's why I keep referring to them as a VR company now, and I'm only half joking now. They kind of are a VR company now.
They actually are a VR company that sort of dabbles in smartphones.
Yes.
High-end smartphones. So
yeah, I did make the point in my review that I think it's good that they've shifted the majority of their focus to Vive and VR, because I think it allowed them to sort of step back and kind of then refocus on smartphones. And I think that helped them build the HTC 10 and make it as good of a phone as it is. Because, I mean, like last year, I don't want to keep going on HTC, but remember last year, like we were brutal to them about the 1M9. Like we basically said, what the hell did you guys just do for the last year? Because all you had to do was put a good camera in it and maybe make the battery life a little bit better and maybe make it not like a gross sticky outside. And they failed on every single level. And we asked them, like, what the hell were you doing? And then this year, it feels like they stepped back, did this VR thing, and then went, oh, okay, let's make a phone. And then they listened to what everyone said and they tweaked everything and made this really good phone. So anyway, good for them, HTC, the VR company.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Google I/O's schedule is now available. So anyone attending Google I/O, this is important. Or if you're just a developer and you're going to like tune into all the sessions and all that stuff, you'll want to know this as well. So yeah, not a lot to talk about in terms of the sessions. Google did say they posted the initial 100, but there's going to be over 200 by the time we get to I/O. And I mean, there's everything in here. So let's see. There's obviously a what's new in Android. That's the biggest session because they'll kind of go over whatever they announce in terms of Android N stuff. But there's material design improvements, more Project Tango stuff, gaming. They're teaching people how to slim down APK sizes. APK sizes have gotten really big, by the way. I don't know if you notice when you like update anything now, everything's like 30 meg files and stuff. Android Auto, lots of VR. I mean, it's kind of all over the place. I/O is such an Android focused thing though. Like everything kind of goes back to Android in a way, which is fine. But I/O this year is a full 3 days. So we haven't had a 3-day I/O since 2013. So 14 and 15 we're back to 2 days. Now it's up to 3 days again. It is at the Shoreline Amphitheater, and they clearly are going to do this outdoors. They're setting up, I think, up to 10 stages for all these different sessions, and they really are calling it a festival. So it should be interesting to see how that works out. Oh, also, if you're attending, when you go pick up your badge, that's when they assign your seat for the keynote, because they're doing assigned seats at the keynote this year, which could be a disaster. So if you're attending and you're listening to this, make sure you pick up your badge fairly early so you get a decent seat at the keynote. Let's see though. So the other big announcement along with the I/O schedule was the first ever Google Play Awards. So you wrote this up. What's going on with the Google Play Awards?
Google Play Awards, first ever ceremony to celebrate developers creating applications for Android. So much like you would see at the Oscars or the Grammys, Google has gotten together a panel of Google Play experts, probably just whoever runs, the Google Play, like their editor picks and all that stuff. They got together some categories like best use of material design or best indie game. So they got games and different utility apps, and whichever app is the best in each different category, they will announce a winner during Google I/O. They did not specify if it's going to be during the actual keynote or maybe at a later time. Kind of hoping it's not during the keynote, because really, who cares? Like,
I think they're instead of doing the Google I/O party, which they always do after the first night, they're doing the Google Play Awards. Like, I think they're going to go on stage and probably announce awards and I think.
How unexciting!
Yeah, it's something like that. Like at the first night at 7:00 at night or something, it's the Google Play Awards.
Yeah, like I get it if you're a developer, like that's something cool to shoot for. But at the same time, we as app users, I don't really care. Like if this app won, like for example, best use of material design, Vivo, the app that is like kind of YouTube's standoff. It allows you to access all the music videos from artists like that. That app got nominated for best use of material design. Are you kidding me? Like, come on. So, and here's the thing. Shout out to all the developers who actually take the time to create an awesome app for Android. We love people like you. But I don't necessarily think like Google should be giving you an award for doing like a good job. You know, like
That's a nice little recognition thing, right?
yes, yeah, it's nice
Especially
recognition.
for the indie developers. Like the indie developers then get to say, well, they get some recognition probably on Google Play, but then they also get to say, we won this award. So
definitely. But like, does it really like matter?
Does
I guess
need an award? Vivo probably doesn't need an award.
Yeah, exactly. Corporate owned entity. I mean, they have the resources to make a good app. I would just expect them to do it. But
Right.
so yeah, I totally get it, and I think it's cool. I just don't. I don't necessarily agree with the establishment.
Well, and I think like
These
part of the
awards.
deal is I think we both said like, how did they come up with these and who's voting and all that stuff, and they said a little bit, right?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with consumers like voting for anything. It's all done by the panel of experts at Google Play. So, I mean, whatever.
I guess if anything, now we know what the categories may be for next year. So maybe people can develop towards these things and hopefully make better apps. I mean, that's what I hope comes out of it. Yeah. Oh, so the thing is the second night of IO, and it's only for an hour, and they haven't actually said that there's going to be a party, which is kind of weird.
No party.
There's always a party. Oh wait, here we go. After hours, no. After sessions and for a concert in the amphitheater. Oh yeah, there is. Of course there is.
Thank goodness.
It's just it's not on the schedule, which is kind of weird, but
Train will play again.
Hopefully. Oh, there's actually a map of how it's all going to look. I did not see that the other day. Oh, look at that. Demo zone, stages. Here, you want to see this?
Bring it on.
All right. This is riveting audio, I know, for those of you not watching. That's an interesting little setup there. So yeah, they have it all at the amphitheaters where like the keynote at the concert and after hours, and then back closer towards the Googleplex. There's an area where they're going to set up a bunch of stages and stuff. So really is like a festival.
Yeah, it's like it's a developer festival. It's not like years before. They're doing it big.
Yeah, it should be kind of crazy. I don't know. We'll be there having fun, figuring it out. So yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. So we'll talk for a moment about Leica and Huawei. So I mentioned earlier that we'll have a Huawei P9 hopefully pretty soon tested. Obviously, the big standout feature there is the dual camera setup that Leica co-engineered. So earlier in the week, or was it the end of last week? I can't remember. Basically a bunch of news stories started picking up saying like, you know, Leica's involvement may not be all that much here. And we know you're saying co-engineered, but you know, the camera modules from what Sunny Optical, and you know, we're not talking about the lenses being made by Leica. Like, what is Leica doing? Like, obviously, we know a lot of it's branding. We get that, right? But selling everyone on these being Leica cameras, if they didn't really have that much involvement, is kind of weak. So I don't know. You've been following this. Do you want to catch us up on what's going on here?
Yeah, so I mean, the big thing that sort of got me started on writing is that I went on the Huawei P9 page, and on the product listing, it explicitly says Leica dual lenses. When you say Leica dual lenses, to me that means produced, developed, manufactured, even possibly Leica dual lenses, meaning these two lenses are made by Leica, when in fact, simply not the case. As it turned out, thanks to overseas media and especially photography blogs who are big on the Leica name, so of course they dove into this.
Like DP Review covered it, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes. So thanks to them, for really kind of diving in before anyone on the Android side of things picked it up. The fact that neither Huawei nor Leica actually manufactured the cameras produced. It was Sunny Optical in China, who's the #1 smartphone camera module manufacturer in the world. So I just felt that there was some misrepresentation going on the part of Huawei, especially. I mean, Leica hadn't said anything. They did this announcement thing, but it's all Huawei. It's all Huawei marketing and stuff. So touting Leica's red dot, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, look, it feels like Huawei went to Leica and said, "Hey guys, we want to put your name on a camera," and Huawei's like, "How much money you got?"
Yeah, they just sign off on it, and they certify, or they kind of license their name out and say, okay. I mean, Leica's a company that can do that. They have their own, a huge chunk of Leica is owned by a U.S. based equity and investment banking firm. So you can't put it past them to say, okay, yeah, I mean, why create something when we can just license out our name and get paid? You know, that's what these people do for a living. So as it turns out, Leica and Huawei took these charges, these allegations, quite seriously. And they immediately, the next morning, I received an email from high up in Huawei's PR team. He gave me a statement. He said, what you wrote was based on bad translations. And he specifically said it not your fault. It was actually the original source of the information was poorly translated. It must have been from some conversation that was had between Huawei or Leica and a member of the media. So due to poor translation, it made it seem as though Leica had absolutely nothing to do with the co-engineering of the P9 and P9 Plus camera modules.
Or at least very little, yeah.
Very little. So now, a couple of days later, we have a co-statement from Huawei and Leica detailing in bullet points specifically, like exactly everything that Leica did for in co-engineering of the phone. And I can just read a couple of the bullet points. First, we have collaborative development, evaluation, and optimization of optical design in compliance with Leica standards. A lot of big words. Doesn't necessarily
say anything.
We have definition of imaging quality in terms of color rendition, color fidelity, white balance, stray light reduction, exposure precision, dynamic range, sharpness, and noise characteristics. Again, like not much. So really, Leica, it seems as though they're just providing standards or maybe guidelines for what they expect like a camera to offer. And then lastly, we have definition of the most stringent common quality standards and production requirements for serial production by Huawei to ensure consistently high quality. Again, Huawei didn't make these, Sony Optical made them in China. So yeah, Leica had some involvement. I wouldn't necessarily say any of this amounts to co-engineering, but yeah, I mean, that's just the way marketing works. And it really wasn't even that big of a deal because at the end of the post, I said, if all this information was provided at the beginning, it could have mitigated any of this confusion as to how much Leica was involved. And again, the only real reason this even matters is because Leica is such a legendary name in the photography world that, I guess people expect the best. When Leica's red dot appears on something, you just expect, what you're paying for. Not that this phone is $2,000 or anything like that, or even half of what a Leica camera goes for, but
this is the first time Leica signed off on something like this, as far as I know. It's a pretty big deal. And so, yeah, people have questioned it. Like, what did you guys really do? Rightfully so. People should be questioning this stuff.
Always question these.
And it's taken a bit of that for Huawei and Leica to finally come out and say, like, this is what we did. And as you just sort of pointed out, it still doesn't say that much.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's a lot of big words.
We don't know if one guy from Leica came over to Huawei and looked at their camera software and said, okay, cool. We don't know. And like, I mean, we're trying to be fair to the situation here. It's just, we're that type of people. We're kind of skeptical of things like this and we can't help it. But look, they issued statements and they're obviously taking it serious. So that's good. They're taking it serious. And hopefully that just means in the long run, the partnership will mean more, or they'll just make better cameras.
Totally. So. Yeah. And, as you mentioned earlier, we are getting one in-house sooner or later. So we'll be able to judge for ourselves if that monochrome shooter is worth
the Droid Life Instagram is going to be pure black and white for
a week straight. Absolutely. Nothing but monochrome. Get ready.
That's right. Yeah. So, all right. In other sort of drama, last week we wrote about Motorola and their warranty exchange program and how it's kind of become a disaster. Basically, people are being left without phones, specifically Moto X Pure Editions, own the phone, something goes wrong, send it into Motorola, and they're left without a phone for months, not days, months. I almost can't even believe this. Can you imagine if you sent a phone into someone to get a warranty repair and like 3 months went by without a phone back? I can't even imagine that happening, but it apparently is happening. And so the stories of this happening to more and more people just started gathering on forums, on Reddit, wherever. We got some emails from people that were having issues. And so basically, we just kind of put out a post a week or so ago that said, it sounds like there's some really, really bad stuff going on. Let us know your thoughts. If you have any stories to share, whatever. And yesterday, Motorola actually reached out to us and said, here's a statement. It's not good. And this is what their statement is. It says, we're experiencing delays at our U.S. repair center that has influenced your repair times. We know how important it is for you to get your phone back as quickly as possible, and we're working hard to identify and implement solutions. We are dedicated to the highest quality service, and this is not up to our standard of excellence. We deeply apologize for any inconvenience. So this doesn't happen very often, but they actually admitted to it pretty much being a disaster. I mean, they said this is not up to our standard. We deeply apologize. So it's a pretty serious issue. So we often don't write about these types of situations because like these go on. I mentioned this in the original post, like you can go on any complaint board and people are complaining about every company. This one just felt different because we're talking about the new phone, people waiting for months and months and months. And there's just story after story. I mean, if you go look at that original post, it's bad. It's just people saying, oh my God, I didn't know. I thought I was by myself. And then they list off like, I haven't had a phone in like 3 months. So we don't normally do this stuff because a lot of these companies experience it. Anyway, this felt different. We wrote about it. And sometimes this is why we do write about these things, because then these companies, when they see it, because look, we're not a huge media company. We're a big enough site that we have a big enough voice that sometimes what we say matters. This seems to be one of those situations where Motorola is like, they reached out to us and said, here, yes, there's a problem. We're working to fix it. So hopefully we've maybe helped a little bit the situation, because it's not good. You guys, if your phone's under warranty, you shouldn't be waiting months to get your damn phone back.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's like some BBB quality stuff right there.
It really is.
Yeah, it's unacceptable. Sadly, I've told the story before about how we recently had to swap out one of our Moto X Pure editions. It was the brown leather one that we ordered. It came with a janky volume rocker, and really there was no wait. We sent in the new phone, got a code, reordered a new phone. Wasn't that big of a deal at all. But then when I see other people's stories, they're waiting for months. And
I think the only difference in ours is it was a brand new phone. So basically you were just sending it back and getting a new phone.
Not a warranty, right? So the fact that people have to, I read one story, one guy was like creeping on LinkedIn trying to find someone high up enough in the chain to resolve their issue. And that is just unacceptable. Being bounced from rep to rep who are giving you different stories of what's going on. I mean, it's a total nightmare.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's the case. People said they were calling a couple times a week. They get one story, promises wouldn't be kept, and it's not. I can't imagine. I seriously cannot imagine calling Motorola twice a week for 2 months and still not having a phone. I mean, I would be finding an attorney, I think.
I wouldn't wish that. Yeah, I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. I would actually probably just chop it up and say, you know what, forget it. I'm gonna go buy something.
I just go buy some cheap prepaid HTC Desire phone or something.
I just don't care at that point.
Cut your losses, yeah. So yeah. Anyways, Motorola says they're working on it. Who knows how long it'll take? What they're gonna do to fix it? They didn't say. They said they're still trying to figure that out. So hey, at least they acknowledged it. It's all we can. If there's one positive to take away, at least they acknowledged it.
Yeah, an apology. Yeah. Apologies help, but they definitely don't put a replacement phone in the hand of their customers. So
hopefully we get there soon.
Yeah.
Let's see. So one of our favorite keyboards this week, Kruma keyboard, went free. It was a paid like $1.50 or something like that, I think, initially. Yeah. Anyways, it's free now, and they've figured out a way to restore people's purchases and whatnot. And I know some people are mad because they paid for it. Now it's free, whatever. Anyways, it prompted. Yeah, it was like $1.50. So it prompted us to run a poll that says, "What's your keyboard of choice?" And because we're just curious, like if these things change over time. You know, you and I are obviously fans of Kruma. I'm also a fan of Flexi. We know SwiftKey is popular, is obviously the Google keyboard. And the results this week, so Google keyboard, 37% of people said they're still using that, and that was number one. And then SwiftKey was right behind it at 36%. And then Kruma has already jumped up to 9%. A lot of people just say whatever keyboard their phone came with, they don't even change them. And then Swipe, and then Flexi, and then Other. I have no idea what Other is. It's just not to get completely off subject, but the keyboard on the HTC 10, I didn't really mention this, I don't think, in the review because it's not worth mentioning, but the keyboard sucks so bad. It's powered by TouchPal. TouchPal is a pretty big keyboard name. Like you can go on Google Play and download TouchPal. It is so bad. I wish HTC would have just stuck with whatever their old keyboard was because it wasn't that bad. This thing was terrible. Like I had to switch. And normally I try not to switch during a review. I couldn't take it. I had to switch. So anyways, so a lot of people still using SwiftKey. When was the last time you used SwiftKey?
Months.
I mean, it's been a long time for me. I know I tried it pretty recently actually because I can't remember what they did in an update, but I said, I'll give it a try again. I just don't really think I like SwiftKey. I don't know what it is about it. There's something about the way you type on it. It just doesn't fit right with my thumbs. Like, cause I'm a tapper. I'm not really a swiper. I'm a tapper. And SwiftKey was really good early on because it was a predictor, right? Like it was good for me, but just something about it I don't like.
Yeah. Ever since Google released Google Keyboard to Google Play, and now that Chroma's out, even though I call it Chroma, I don't see a need to use anything else, right? I mean, it just works. And I love things that just work. Like it doesn't take a lot. And I like that Chroma actually like changes colors in my apps, and I can change the font on the actual keyboard itself. And I can change the size if I want. I mean, there's a lot you can do, but it still keeps that same Google keyboard vibe, which is very basic, minimal, simplistic. It just works.
I think that's what I liked a lot about Chroma is that it's basically Google Keyboard, and Google Keyboard is probably my favorite keyboard. But yeah, Chroma is Google Keyboard, except it's all colorful, and you can add a number row if you want. You can do some other things to it, which is I think why you and I appreciate it so much.
Totally.
But yeah, I've been using Flexi like crazy for the last month. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't even know if Flexi's a good keyboard, but because I'm a tapper, it actually is a good tapping keyboard. It's on my S7 right now. I think I put it on the HTC 10 too. But it's one of those things that takes a while to get used to. I've just used it off and on so many times that I'm used to it. But I don't know that I would tell someone who's never used Flexi to go ahead and use it because it takes a while to learn. Anyway, that was I just thought that was a good poll because we haven't asked that in a while, but a lot of people still using SwiftKey. Has anyone said in the chat why they're using SwiftKey? If you're in the chat, tell us why you like SwiftKey so much. Actually, no one's talking about why. Oh, this guy says always use SwiftKey. Syncs between your devices. Yeah, I get that. But most of them have cloud saves now, like Flexi does. I'm sure Swipe does. I don't know if Chroma does, if it syncs between devices.
Well, now that you can log into an account,
yeah,
I think it probably might. Yeah.
Yeah. This guy says SwiftKey and then switch to Chroma. Yeah, because the color adapt thing is what's so cool. How it changes colors depending on the app. Although I was in an app the other day and the color was just totally random. It might have been the Google Play Store. It was like light blue, but Google Play's kind of greenish, I think, most of the time.
It was like what color it is. I mean, it changes every week.
Yeah. And this poor soul is using the S7 keyboard.
Oh, yeah, it is Google Play. So green on top. And then like this blue on bottom. Yeah, what's up with that? Chroma?
I don't know. Chroma doesn't know. Or Google Play doesn't know.
Chroma, you suck. I still love Chroma. I don't care.
This guy says the number pad on SwiftKey. I think that's one of the things I hate. So that was part of the terrible thing with TouchPal on the HTC 10. When you switched over to number pad, it was like they moved the numbers all the way over to the left. They weren't centered where your thumbs are. Like so, then you had to like one hand type out. And I think SwiftKey maybe does that too. And it's I don't know. Keyboards are an interesting thing. Like why people settle into one. Remember when Swipe was like king? And now no one uses Swipe. I mean, 6% of our readers are like, Swipe.
The Swipe was cool until it got bought by, what was it, Nuance.
Does Nuance own that? Yeah, I think they do.
And it just sort of turned to Poo poo.
Well, I think they stopped caring about making the consumer version better because remember they were just selling the technology to everyone, and so then it just stagnated, and then SwiftKey sprung up, and
yeah, selling now has like this weird effect on people's like take on your product for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they just got lapped.
You
They sold and then got lapped.
Oh, Kruma. Sorry, I'm laughing about the chat. Someone spelled Kruma Crewma. Kruma.
Oh, he's probably searching for it. Yeah, sorry. It is kind of a weird name, Kruma. That's why Tim calls it Chroma, because it looks like Chrome, like but there's an extra O. It's almost like it's a typo with an extra O in there.
Right. Kruma. Like Chrome.
The name, bro. That's funny.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So anyways, keyboards. All right, let's talk just a couple of apps real quick. So Inbox. I've been using Inbox for basically since the day it came out, because I was using Mailbox and then I switched to Inbox because Inbox, same idea, where you swipe apps away and it's basically like a task manager of email instead of Gmail. And it got an update today. I just wanted to point out because Google finally added link storing. So do you ever, if you're just on the internet, email yourself a link? Are you the type that does that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All the time, right? So now, like, you don't have to do that. With Inbox, you can be on a site or a link or a page or whatever. You could be in an app, wherever you're at. And when you click the share button, you can hit Inbox and then say save link. And it just saves it in this stored thing in Inbox. You don't actually have to email it to yourself. Except it probably is like in the background emailing it to yourself, but it just puts in the store folder. It's just like the greatest thing ever. Like multiple times a day, I email myself links, and now I don't have to do that anymore because of Inbox. And they added a Chrome extension that does the same thing. But I don't know. This is one of those things that I wish everyone had. Like Gmail should have this too, so people that use Gmail can have quick access to storing links. I just had to point it out because I think it's one of the greatest things ever. There's some other things in the update too, but I don't really care. All I care about is the link saving thing. Big stuff there. Love me some Inbox.
I actually figured out after we had this keyboard conversation, I figured out what I'm going to highlight for next week's Throwback Thursday. Oh. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's going to be awesome.
That should be great.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any apps you want to talk about?
Yeah, I do have one app I want to talk about. It's called Exploding Kittens.
This
is Kickstarter's most funded game of all freaking time.
Yes, it is.
I didn't fund it because I don't believe in Kickstarter. But Kellen did apparently, and the game has been sitting in his closet, I think, ever since he received it.
It is right up there in a box.
So before it even hit Android, I never even heard of it just because I don't pay attention to Kickstarter stuff. But Exploding Kittens is awesome. I've been playing it. Dude, I've been playing it a lot.
Nice.
So it's a board game that has been now made into a mobile phone game, but you don't play it by yourself. You still play it with friends just as you would a regular board game. You can online multiplayer, so you can go into a lobby with strangers from all around the place and play Exploding Kittens, or you can host your own game, send out a code to your friends who also have it, and they can enter your lobby and play against you. I've been playing my girlfriend. She still hasn't beat me. It's like 8-0. I'm kicking ass. Anyway, so Exploding Kittens, kind of hard at first to explain, but it's a card drawing game, and you essentially try not to draw a exploding kitten card. And when you draw an exploding kitten card, you have to use a defuse card. And every other card in the pile sort of mitigates or allows you to skip a turn to where you don't have to draw the exploding kitten card. I'm trying to think of like a game that is similar to it, but like there is no game similar to Exploding Kittens.
Okay, so the game, everyone says like they think it's fun and whatever, and like, yeah, it got funded like crazy. Now you're saying the Android version's awesome, but is this basically just like the game War, which the outcome is decided before you ever start actually playing?
No, definitely not.
Like there's actual strategy.
Oh, there's so much strategy involved. Okay. Wait, so.
You're not just dealt cards and then it goes through and things explode. I'm just saying, like, War is the stupidest card game ever because the outcome.
Awesome.
No, because the outcome is decided before you ever play.
Technically not, because no.
Dude, there's no strategy involved in war.
You're absolutely right. There is no strategy, but the outcome, the winner, is not determined before the game starts. That's my only point.
It is. You just don't know. So you play war for an hour, and you were never going to win. Is what I'm saying. Like if you lose war, you were never going to win because those are the cards you were dealt, and that's the orders. And that's what I'm saying. Like war is the stupidest game ever.
Yeah, but there's a way war can actually turn very heavily. Like if you get war, if you guys both put down the same cards, and then inside those 3 cards it's like an ace and a king, that person then has the advantage. There's war does have a way of changing.
No, because there's no skill involved.
There's not.
It's just the cards you were dealt
right.
and chance at what you happen to lay down. Like Absolutely. It's decided. Like the minute you each have your stack of cards, it's decided basically. And when you get to the end, it's not like you increased your chances of winning.
Right. But Exploding Kittens is different from war. It reminds me a bit of Uno. It's not like war. It's more like Uno. So different cards. Say you get the Exploding Kitten, but you defuse it. You then have the opportunity to place the kitten inside the deck where you want it. You can place it on the bottom of the deck, on top of the deck, second in the deck. And that is a mind game against every other player then, because then that player has a card that says, oh, I want to draw from the bottom instead of drawing from the top. So it's a mind game, card game. It's a lot of fun when you're playing against people you know or like who are next to you on a phone, because you can mess with them a little bit and say, "Ooh, where did I put the kitten?" And it's actually a lot of fun. You can slap other players. You can make them take multiple turns, which greatens the chance that they'll pull the Exploding Kitten. It's a total blast. It's only
I just bought it.
Yeah, it's $1.99. I think it's a lot of fun, and the artwork is done by the Oatmeal, which is like an online, it's like a comic strip basically, like layman's terms, but it's a lot of fun. Exploding Kittens, $1.99. It's totally worth $2, and I will say, watch out for getting into the stranger multiplayer lobbies. I think there's some people who have sort of figured out a way to kind of like cheat the system to make it to where they win every time. So for example, let me give you an example. You're in a multiplayer lobby and you have a card that allows you to steal a card from another player. You play that card. That person just doesn't choose a card to give you. And instead we'll just wait the game out until everyone decides to quit the lobby and they win by default because everyone left because they're tired of waiting for this guy to make his move. That's usually when it's someone's move, a timer will come up. They'll get about 15 seconds to make a move. But during this time, when you have to give a player another card, there is no timer against you. You can take as long as you want. So this guy will get that card played against him. He'll put his phone down, go take a crap, and 20 minutes later, everyone's left, and he's won the game. So,
that's stupid. I mean, do you get that much satisfaction in winning because people are quitting? Like, that's how dumb people are.
Well, welcome to the end. Welcome to the end.
Humans.
Yeah. So, and there's no multiplayer leaderboards. There's no points. There's no like win-loss KD ratio or anything like that.
Maybe there will be someday. I don't know.
Maybe, but until then, or maybe someone's internet connection just really sucks and they disconnect, but it doesn't ping the server to let them know they disconnect. I mean, who knows? So there's probably some bugs that still need to be worked out in the whole multiplayer aspect. But
can you just play with one other person?
Yeah. Yeah, so you can host a lobby and they can join it on their phone. Although they will need to purchase the Exploding Kittens app for $1.99 as well. Everyone needs to own it.
Send it to Dove, make her play it.
Exactly. But now that I have the digital game, I kind of want to buy the good one. That way when I have like friends over, we can all play it like the actual board game.
Instead of Cards Against Humanity, like weirdos, you can play this game instead.
Yeah, I mean, I love Cards Against Humanity too, but Exploding Kittens is actually pretty fun because there's actually like it's an actual game. Cards Against Humanity, I don't see it as much of a game. I just see it as like, oh my god, I can't believe you said that.
Oh, you're so funny. That's so funny.
Oh, you're so dark and morbid.
Yeah,
yeah, it's funny, but I don't see it as a game.
Exploding Kittens, not for the creepers. Your creeper friends. It's for fun friends.
Yeah, it's for your cool friends who like to have fun. So. Yeah, there it is. Exploding Kittens.
Cool. All right. Well, I bought it. Yeah. So $1.99. You guys can afford that, Android users. Come on.
Yeah. You guys aren't all cheap. Just get
probably
your morning
done enough
Starbucks.
Google rewards surveys to pay for that.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's gonna do it for me. Oh, two things I want to share. For all you metalheads out there, Gojira, the best French metal band ever, released a new single this morning for their album that's coming out in June. Definitely go check that out. And then also, huge shout out to Prince. I love that guy. I haven't really heard a song of his that I disliked. I mean, there's some that I just didn't care for, but like a lot of his songs are legit. The dude was an amazing guitar player. He played a solo over While My Guitar Gently Weeps by the Beatles, George Harrison. He slayed it. The guy is totally amazing. So shout out to Prince, RIP, dude. Like 2016 totally sucks. David Bowie, now Prince. Like, who's next? Who cares? Sucks.
Yeah, 57 is all right. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
56,
young.
57.
That's
super young.
Yeah, what a sad deal. I heard they were doing like an autopsy or something today. Maybe we'll find out what the deal was. Either way, it sucks. I mean, like finding out how he died doesn't like save the fact that he is now dead, and the dude is a legend.
He apparently had the flu for like 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds like bad. It sucks. My
Totally
brother
sucks.
and a couple of his best friends are massive Prince fans. Like they're the type that go karaoke and do Little Red Corvette. Like my brother does Little Red Corvette, like really good. I'm imagining like tonight, like let's do it, boys. Let's do it.
Here we go.
Which is how you got to celebrate the man.
Oh, absolutely. I had the opportunity when HTC held their 1A9 press event. They did it at like a Tidal concert, and Prince was there. I totally skipped it because I didn't care about any other person. I think no, it wasn't Beyonce. I think Jay-Z was there, Prince, and a few other people. There was just a lot of guys I didn't really care for because Prince was like one of the headliners. So I would have had to have been there all night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in New York. I flew back to Oregon the next morning. I couldn't stay. But that was my one chance to see Prince. Yeah. I totally blew it. I didn't think he was going to be dying in a few months.
I want to say he was in Portland recently. He did like a 2-night show, or no, it was like a 2-session show, which is weird. Like you could buy tickets to his like an early 6 p.m. show, and then he played again at like 9 or something like that. And yeah, we didn't go either. Like my wife's boss did, and I think my brother did too. But
we blew it.
Yeah, we did.
That's right. YouTube to the rescue. I can see all of his concerts.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. Yeah. Well, I don't have anything else then. So yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody. DL Show episode 107. Next up, Google I/O. It's going to get crazy with Android, so should be fun times coming up. Yeah. Otherwise, have a safe weekend, everybody. We will see you next week. Peace.